All right, excellent, excellent. All right, well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship monthly meeting. Tonight we have Kelly Sullivan Walden, and she'll be speaking. The title of her presentation tonight is Dreamwork to Awaken Your Hero's Journey. Thank you for joining us, and if you're here for the first time, we want to say welcome. If you have been with us before, then welcome back. My name is Smith Prim. I'm the co-chairman for Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship, along with Catherine Smart. Want to remind everyone, we want you to know that SFF is here for you. You're the reason that we exist. The mission of our nonprofit, all volunteer-run organization is to help you develop and enhance your spiritual, mystical, and metaphysical awareness and consciousness. We do that by sponsoring programs like this one tonight that are designed to help facilitate your personal growth and development and a holistic and spiritual approach to health and to living. So I want to remind everybody that tonight's program is being recorded. So if you don't wish to be recorded, please take a moment and turn off your camera. So before we get going tonight, I usually like to do just a quick centering, a couple of breaths to clear our minds and to clear our heads and get us focused. So if you'll take a moment and just lower your eyes and get quiet for a moment, take a breath in and let out all the frustrations or any confusions that you may have had today. Let those just float away in the breeze. Take another breath in and breathe in love and light. And let go of anything that that doesn't serve you and that you don't need or you would like to see leave your life. And the third breath, when you take it in, breathe in a focus for tonight's presentation and our speaker, and let our minds be focused on the message and to receive the message that we need to hear tonight. And exhale. And you can slowly open your eyes and welcome back. So just a quick introduction for Kelly Sullivan Walden. Kelly is one of America's premier dream analysts and the best-selling author of multiple dream books. In her program tonight, she will give you Dreamwork tools to navigate your hero's journey. This is a journey that is calling you to quest for change, for knowledge, for peace, for strength, and for greater fulfillment. And when Kelly describes it to you tonight, she will also explain how your dreams contain a map of your heroic journey. How cool is that? As a part of her introduction, I want you to know that Kelly is a certified clinical hypnotherapist whose unique approach to dream therapy led her to become a trusted advisor, coach, and consultant. In describing her own journey, Kelly says that one minute she was dining with friends at the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, California, and the next minute she was being whisked into an ambulance, nearly flatlined. As 911 mayhem erupted on the Earth plane, Kelly says she peacefully floated through the ceiling, through the cosmos, and into a most heavenly out-of-body experience, where she was downloaded answers to questions for which she had always hungered. Then, before what felt like a point of no return, she made the decision to turn about face and return to her earthly life, which, as you might imagine, would never be the same. As one of America's premier dream analysts, Kelly is a multi-award winning author of 11 books, whether she is writing books, working with clients, or speaking for us tonight, Kelly is on a mission to awaken the world to the power of dreams. And as a part of tonight's talk, will teach you to interpret and work with your dreams so that you can awaken your hero within, springboard your intuition, amplify your higher guidance, awaken your wisdom, alchemize nightmares, setbacks, and challenges and turn them into blessings, and access more courage to be the inspiring hero of your story. So Kelly's going to speak from 7:15, which is about 7:06, so a little earlier, and she'll stop around at 8:30. So we will have a break at 8:30, and she will come back after a 5-minute break, and she will answer questions. So do a question and answer. Wanted to remind you that being the live presentation, you have the access to do the question and answers directly with Kelly here. We're not going to include that in our YouTube presentation because that's the benefit of being at the live meeting. So, and when we do the Q&A, if you could, I like to keep it as direct as possible. If you could, when we do that, just raise your hand and then I'll call on you. And if you ask your question to Kelly, she'll answer it. And then we'll move to the next person. So be as quick as possible. Let's get some question and answer. And I bet there'll be some good things. So now, if you could, please sit back and prepare to enjoy the captivating presentation with Kelly Sullivan Walden. Take it away, Kelly.
Thank you, Smith. Thank you so much. And thank you, Kim and Eileen and Vincent and Larry Burke. Wow, what a surprise. It's a wonderful blessing to meet you all and to see you all tonight. So Smith already started us off with a little prayer. I want to pick up where he left off, and let me invite you to, we'll do a little prayer, a little centering, and set some intentions, and then we'll come out and play. So let me just invite you to go back into that internal space for a moment, closing our outer eyes and opening our inner eyes, and just taking a couple of deep breaths, riding the wave that Smith already started for us. Let's just enter that sacred inner cave. One of my favorite Joseph Campbell quotes is, "The cave we fear to enter holds the treasures we seek." So let's just breathe our way into that sacred inner space. And in order to do that, we just dedicate letting go to each exhale. Let's, if nothing else happens throughout this whole night, let's just allow ourselves to become lighter and lighter with every breath we take. Let's drop more and more of any preconceived notions of what a hero is, of who we are, how dare we call ourselves that, what our dreams are, and how good or how not good our dream recall is. Let's just let go of all judgments and any stresses in our lives and related to what's going on in the world right now. We can send our giant hearts prayers to all of those who are suffering and who are challenged by the current circumstances in this war. And then we just send those prayers to them. And then we return back to this place where we are letting go, dropping in deeper and deeper with every breath. And because nature abhors a vacuum, we breathe in our connection to the sunlight of the spirit, to that infinite power and presence that is beyond description, beyond what can be described, what is beyond our life experience. We open up to this great power that orchestrates the universe, recognizing that it knows what it's doing. And we recognize that it is here, fully orbed within each one of us, within our hearts, within our souls, within our bodies, allowing a healing elixir to be evoked even now. So in this space, recognizing that from the ultimate dream perspective, tonight has already unfolded for the highest good of all of us. There's nothing that we have to do except let go and relax and dive in. I want to just give you a moment in the silence to contemplate a dream that you would like to court tonight. And this can be a dream that you had a long time ago as a child, maybe, or maybe it's one that you woke up with this morning. But just take a moment to, if you have a journal nearby, be great if you could jot it down. If you don't have a journal nearby, I suggest that you get one, because I'm going to ask you to do a little journaling as we go throughout. And if you'd rather just sit there and contemplate, that's fine too. But call to mind a specific dream, if you would. Even if it's just a little hint, I'll give you a moment or two in the silence to allow one to come out and be selected by you. And without necessarily having to go through the whole dream, if you could just give that dream a title as if it were a movie. And perhaps just jot down a couple of keywords that help you to remember what this dream is and what happened in the dream. Even if it was just a flash, or if it was an epic tale, just pick a piece, couple of symbols. Okay, and now we can just set that aside. We'll come back to that in a moment. But we're going to be talking about the hero's journey tonight. And I like to do as Stephen Covey said, and in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he said, begin with the end in mind. So we're going to start at the end. And most of us come into something like this from a place of wanting to get something, knowing that we're struggling with something in our lives, and we're hoping that we're going to get some kind of an aha moment that will give us an edge on our circumstances. But while we're in this prayerful, meditative place, I'm going to ask you to put your hands on your belly, if you would. And just breathe into that place where your hands are on your belly. And I'm going to ask you to call to mind a memory of a time that you allowed your will, your self-will, your empowerment to overcome an adverse circumstance. So let me say a little more about that. There was a time in your life, maybe many moments, where there was something difficult happening that you had no idea how you would overcome that obstacle. But there was some part of you, your self-will, that part of your second chakra, that somehow kicked in and you were able to get over something that seemed impossible at the moment. So if you have your journal nearby, take one hand off your belly to write down just a little reminder of that one moment. And there may have been many, but just pick one moment of an adverse circumstance that you overcame without having any idea how you were going to do it, but you did. Did you pick one? You probably have many because you are a champion, you are a hero, but just pick one. And just allow that feeling of empowerment to come through you because you got over that. You did it. You did something. You connected with some part of you that had you overcome something that seemed impossible. So notice how good that feels to know that you did that. And because you could do that, any circumstance in your current life, you got it. You can handle it. Now I'm going to ask you to place one hand over your heart. I want you to contemplate a moment in time when you were challenged in the area of love. Maybe it was a relationship that you were deeply committed to and something went awry. Maybe somebody did or said something that hurt your heart. but somehow you didn't know how you were going to do it, but you somehow accessed great love, bigger than you knew you had. And you got through that circumstance by being more loving. So I want you to go into your memory of a time that you overcame a difficult love situation, and you overcame it by being more loving. So pick one of those and jot it down, please. I hope you picked one. And notice how you feel in remembering how you did that, how you became more loving than you knew you were capable, maybe more forgiving, more allowing, but you accessed bigger love than you knew you could do. So feel that wash through you, and know that if you're challenged right now in the area of love in your life, if there's somebody difficult in your life, know that you have this resource to lean on. You proved you could already do this. You've got this. Okay, now one more. I'm going to ask you with one hand to tap your third eye. Right here in the center of your forehead. I'm going to ask you to contemplate a moment of challenge, but you were able to tap into higher awareness, a higher frequency of thought. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe it was an aha moment that came out of the blue, but just tap that third eye as you contemplate a moment in time where you tapped into a higher awareness. And it gave you something. It gave you a gift. It gave you some kind of a solution, maybe something that you were able to share with other people. So just tap that third eye. And now just take a moment to jot that down. What was that memory of that higher awareness that you tapped into? And just allow that memory to come over you. Perhaps, as Howard Thurman would say, this was a moment of high resolve, a moment where you stepped outside of the dust and grit of the journey and you popped into that place of, I can see clearly now. The rain and the pain is gone, and you knew who you were. And maybe this is an ordinary state for you, or maybe this was one moment that you call on in meditation to bring you back. So allow that to be with you now. So the reason I ask you to think of these moments is I want you to remember that you already know how to do this. This heroic state of being isn't new to you. Just like dreams and dream work, even hypnosis. I heard some of you talk about hypnosis or hypnotherapy before we started. So I know this is a very advanced group in that way. But all of those things are natural. It's natural for you to be heroic. It's natural for you to call on your dreams. It's even natural for you to use this relative hypnosis that we're all in, and to be able to go behind the wall of ordinary reality and see what's really going on. So I say this because I want you to know that you've already got this, so you can relax, know that you're going to be relearning something that you already intrinsically deeply know, deeply in your soul. Okay. So I want to just say a little bit about the hero's journey. Many of you probably know a little bit about this already, I would imagine, but I'm going to pretend like you don't know, and we're going to just start from scratch. So you probably have heard of Joseph Campbell. He was a late, great philosopher. He was a teacher of myths and fairy tales who studied the world and he was aware of the world's stories from all different cultures and religions. And he was able to identify this common denominator, that all of these stories from all of these different myths and all of these different cultures, all of these different religious and spiritual places, they all had this one story in common. He calls it the monomyth. And basically, it's a story of an ordinary person. Usually it's depicted as a young person that is absolutely clueless. They have no idea they're a hero in the making, but they get called to a great adventure. And sometimes that calling comes in the form of a tap on the shoulder. It comes in the form of a voice, or sometimes a dream. Sometimes it comes in the form of the kingdom being in ruin. Sometimes it comes in the form of a war or a breakdown, a pandemic. But the ordinary person gets the call to move outside of their ordinary world and go somewhere beyond their comfort zone. And of course, there's resistance. They don't want to do it. They don't think they can. They don't think they're capable, but they meet a mentor along the way that says, you got this. I've been there, done that. I'll teach you what I know. I'll help you do it. They cross a threshold and they encounter all manner of strange and interesting creatures and beings that are otherworldly, tests, allies, enemies. They have a dark night of the soul. They go into their innermost cave. They have an ordeal that tests the very fabric of their being, and they have to come face to face with their greatest fear. And once they move through that, they discover a great reward. And often we hear that part of the story and we think that's the end. That's the story. The hero finally comes into their reward. But what most people don't realize is, no, that's not the end of the story. The story ain't over until the hero comes back home, until they make that full circle back, that they complete the loop and they come back home with the elixir. And so they have to come back to the ordinary world with that medicine that they found. And it's not just for them, it's for the people back home. So those are the basic stages. There's 12 of them. If you look at them and you break them down, it's like a particular hero's journey 12-step program, except it's not anonymous and we're not trying to get rid of something. We're trying to reclaim some aspect of ourselves. And what I found, because I've become a student of the hero's journey, I use these 12 stages in every workshop I lead, and I use it in my normal life. My husband and I, whenever we travel, whenever anything's happening radical in our lives, we always relate it to what stage of the hero's journey we're in. And I relate it to my dreams. And I noticed there was a correlation between my dreams and the stages of the hero's journey. So each dream that we have, I believe, is correlated to one of these 12 stages. And it's helpful to know which one it is. It helps us to interpret and work with that dream to be able to mine the gold from the dream. And we can also look at the entire landscape of our dreams as a way of looking at the map of the hero's journey. So I'll talk about all of those different things. So let me just say this. The hero's journey is non-local and non-linear. It is a hologram. So I'll speak about it as if it were a stair-step approach, one step that leads to the next, that leads to the next. But in reality, it's a hologram, and the stages go in and out. It's like a dream where it's not always organized and orderly. I like to treat it like it is, but really it isn't. So you might be in the ordeal right now, or you might be in the reward right now. And then tomorrow you might feel like you're brand new and you might be receiving a brand new call to adventure, or you might be coming home with the elixir while you're simultaneously getting a new call to adventure. So don't worry if it feels like it's out of order, because it's sort of meant to be, but we're going to break it down in simple terms as if it was stair steps. Okay. And we'll talk about it as it relates to dreams. So first of all, there are 12 steps, but we could consolidate those 12 stages into 4. So let's just first look at the 4. There's the call. There's the quest. There's the reward and the return, the call, the quest, the reward, and the return. So right off the bat, let's see if you can look at the dream that I had you think about before, and see if you can just take a guess which stage of the hero's journey out of those four relate to your dream the most. It might seem like, it might be like shoehorning something in. It might be obvious. It might be clearly a reward. If you're flying, if you're being acknowledged, if you're on a stage receiving a standing ovation, if you're hanging out with Jesus or Mohammed or Buddha, that might be like clearly the reward. Or it might be clearly you're getting the call. You might be receiving an invitation. Somebody might be pushing you. You might be running away from something. That might be your resistance. So just for those of you whose faces I can see on here, give me a nod, like a yeah or a no. If you're able, let me know if you're able to start to see a connection between your dream and the stage of the hero's journey. So nod your head if okay. Okay, good. And if you're having a hard time, I also want to see that. Oh, okay, I think you guys are getting this. All right, great. So I just want you to see just right off the bat that you can start to do. That's one question I suggest you ask yourself when you wake up in the morning after you've recorded a dream first thing in the morning, because it has to be first thing in the morning. Otherwise, 9 out of 10 times it will disappear otherwise. So right after you identify your dream, ask yourself, what stage of the hero's journey is this? Now let's go through the 12, and that might break it down a little bit. But those four, that's kind of a shorthand: the call, the quest, the reward, or the return. Okay. So let's start with the first, as this relates to sort of the landscape of dreams. Stage 1 is the ordinary world. And it even relates, let's even think about it as it relates to this workshop tonight. Back in the ordinary world, you're just doing your thing. You were hanging out. This is before you got the call to come to this event that you went to. So it relates to just about everything. We're all, by the way, always on a hero's journey. You've been on it since the day you were born, and you'll be on it until your last moment here. And you could say that every day is its own hero's journey. It's like a miniature. And then there's something that you're in the midst of right now that is a particular hero's journey. So perhaps one of the things I'd like you to identify when we get to the Q&A stage, I'd like you to share with me, and maybe you can even put it in the chat. When you identify, by the time we get to these 12 stages, if you can identify what stage of the hero's journey you most identify with now, with your current circumstances. Okay, so listen for that. Okay, stage 1, the ordinary world. With regards to dreams, I like to say this is where you set up your dream zone in an optimal way. This is the ordinary world. This is before you get to dreaming. This is to make sure that you really think about your 5 senses in your bedroom. You want to remove clutter, especially from your nightstand. You want to make sure there's a pleasant smell in the room. If possible, get some lavender essential oil. Open the window so there's fresh air. You want to make sure there's no clutter around you, because sometimes that will influence your dreams. You want to make sure that you don't have your television on in your bedroom, ideally. So there's a lot of things you can do. I have a blog. You can Google it. It's called Feng Shui for Dreams, something like that. Feng Shuiing your dream zone. That's it. So I go into much more depth, but this is sort of the ordinary world before you get into dreams and dreaming. And this is one way to set yourself up for sweet dreams. Okay. Stage 2, the call to adventure. So we could say regarding dreams, every night we're called to adventure. We're called to dreaming. Every time we get sleepy, even though it might seem like we're about to check out, from the ordinary world, but that sleepiness is actually our subconscious mind, our dreaming mind, calling us into this other world. Now, in a dream, when we get a call to adventure, it might look like an announcement of some kind. Has anybody ever had a dream where there was an actual voice that you ever heard something? Mostly dreams are visual, but sometimes we'll hear an auditory voice say, "Come on, come over here. hello, I'm talking to you. There's like, pay attention to something. There's some kind of an announcement, or you might get an invitation, or there's somebody in your dream that is inviting you to go somewhere, or you lose something. Maybe something gets stolen from you and you chase after it. Either way, you're being called to move. And I might even add to this, the call to adventure might happen because of a nightmare. A nightmare represents in some way a breakdown. It might represent that there's great change, like a fire or a flood or an earthquake. It means you can't stay where you're at anymore. It's time to shift. It's time to move, time to change. But of course, we resist. So that brings us to stage 3. That's the refusal of the call. No, I don't want to move. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And even if it's broke, I don't want to change. Has anybody ever felt, even though I imagine all of you wouldn't be here if you weren't movers and shakers in your life, risk takers, spiritual pioneers, right? But still, even us, we get a little bit like, haven't I done enough? Really? I got to write another book? Really? I got to show up for this thing? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not qualified. I don't, all that stuff. So in a dream, we could say that stage 3 of the hero's journey is when we say no to something, when we're pushing something away. There's a group of people that are trying to get us to do something. There's a pack of wolves that are coming after us. And we're like, no, 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 I don't want that. Something that we resist, we refuse, we run away from. So consider that. If you've ever had a nightmare, it's usually because you're running from something that you think is unpleasant, that you're afraid might hurt you. But in fact, from an ultimate shamanic perspective, it might be the thing that's going to transform you in the biggest way. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a moment. I've just said a lot. So just take a breath. Now I want to pop out of where I was just talking from, and I want to give you one more kind of metaphor for the rest of this journey. This is part of the why the hero's journey, why dreams. And this is my why at this moment. I'm really into metaphors and symbols. To me, I think a symbol is just such an eloquent way of speaking, because one little word or one little picture is like a Boolean cube. It packs a punch. So much can happen in that. So I hope by the end of this presentation, you will all land on one metaphor, one symbol that you'll take from this, that you'll carry into your dreams, that you'll carry into your life, that will be that like, that sacred thing that empowers you. So here's my sacred symbol du jour. So you've heard that saying that Einstein said about how you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. Yeah. So another way of looking at that is, if we're all angels, we all come from an angelic realm where all is perfect, all is lovely, all is peachy keen, we're all connected, singing kumbaya all day long. And at some point we got a little bored and said, I'd really like a little contrast. I'd really like to appreciate peace by knowing its opposite. I'd really love to appreciate success by knowing its opposite. I'd love to know connection by knowing its opposite. Let's go to Earth. Wouldn't that be fun? Oh my goodness. Yay. So we come on down, we find a body, we hop into it, and we're in Earth school, and it's so great until we have our first challenge. And then it's like, oh my God, what did I sign up for? Wait, who made up this curriculum? Wait a minute. I did not read the fine print. I don't know about this. I can't wait to become an angel again and be out of this mess. But we signed up for this. This is coveted. According to the Bhagavad Gita, it's like we have to stand in line for billions and billions of years. I don't even know exactly what the numbers are, but it's like, it's such a big deal to get a human incarnation. It is not just anybody can get one. It's a sacred, we won the lottery to be here. So we really picked it, no matter what we're challenged by. But now that we're here and we're in, let's say, the maze, and we're stuck in the maze, we can't find our way out. We keep looping around the same places, and it's just frustrating. Like, come on, I should know better than this. Why is it so hard? One way to solve the maze is not from inside the maze, but it's to find our way to crawl up to the top of the wall and look down at the maze and say, oh, wait, that's where the exit is. Ah, I should have known. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it all makes sense. So the top of the maze wall, that's kind of my metaphor du jour. We're climbing outside of the maze right now, and we're raising our vibration by having this higher awareness so that we can see from this higher place what's really going on down there. And from that place, from that more angelic perspective, from that higher vibrational perspective, we now can't wait to get back into the maze and apply what we see. So that's sort of the point. The point is to step outside so we can have that breath and then go back in. Or when I was younger, I played softball, and I remember being in the batting cages and loving it as the balls were coming at me. And all of a sudden I missed one ball, got spun around, lost my balance, and another one came and hit me, and that really threw me off balance. And then another one came, and another, I'm like, oh my God, stop. But the balls kept coming. So I had to just run away and hide in the dugout, get my balance, chill out, and then come back and hit the ball. So that's kind of the point. We step away so that we can come back and get clear. Remember that we are heroes on a hero's journey. We're dreamers. We're not just regular old heroes. We're dream heroes. We have this superpower called our dreams that gives us insight about our ordinary lives. And then we just can't wait to get back at them. Like, let me at them. Let me in, coach. There's that John Fogerty song my dad loves to sing. Okay, back to stage 4. All right. So we had the ordinary world. This is when everything is mundane, ordinary. Set up our dream zone, then we get the call to adventure, we get called into sleep, and also in our dream we get a call, perhaps by a being, a person, or even a circumstance that's chasing us. We say no because it's normal to resist our greatness. It's normal to resist that we're heroes. It's normal. We all resist, even the people that do the most incredible things. There's a story about Martin Luther King the night before the Million Man March. So, a piece from his journal where he's saying, I can't do this. What the hell have I gotten myself into? And all these people, this is insane. I can't do this. And yet he showed up the next day anyway. So it's okay. We can have a tantrum. Don't want to do it. Can't, all the reasons. And then we just show up anyway. That's the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. We just simply show up. We don't have to have a clue how we're doing it or what to do. We meet a mentor. So just take a breath for a moment and call to mind a mentor of yours right now. And it might be a metaphysical one, might be a physical one. Just take a moment. And actually, if you want to jot down one that you want to call in to be with you for the rest of this journey, do that now. And just notice the way you feel when you contemplate this mentor. I would imagine in some way, shape, or form, we all sort of feel similar. There's a higher vibration. They tend to represent an older brother or older sister in consciousness that they've paved the way and they're a few steps ahead. From a dreaming perspective, however, if you dream about them, Carl Jung said this, I didn't make it up, but he said everyone and everything in our dream is an aspect of ourselves, is an aspect of the dreamer. So it's not grandiose to say, wow, that's an aspect of me. Whoever you picked as your mentor, take a breath, know that you're not being an egomaniac, know that it's actually humble to accept this is an aspect of you. We could even say this is part of the light shadow. We all know what a shadow is. That's the part of ourselves that we push away and say, ooh, yuck, gross, that's not me. I'm not like that. I'm not mean. I'm not scary. I'm not greedy. I'm none of that. I'm all the good things. But from an ultimate reality place, we're everything. Sorry if you hate me for saying that. There's a piece, there's a speck of all of humanity in all of us. And we know what the dark shadow is, but the light shadow is the part of us that we put so ahead of us, so above us, that we think that couldn't possibly be me. I couldn't possibly be that good. I want to just drop in for a little story here. There's a friend of mine who's a channeler. You might have heard of him. His name's Bashar. His real name is Daryl Anka, and he channels someone named Bashar. And anybody know of him? Raise a hand if you hear. He's wonderful. You'd love him. Okay, great. A few of you know. So he's been channeling this beautiful being known as Bashar for years and years. And before he goes to sleep, he incubates a dream where he says to him, in my dream tonight, I want you to show me what you look like, because I hear you in my head all the time. But my God, we've been in this relationship for all these years. I should know what you look like. So I kind of want to know what you look like. Good night. So he went into his dreaming, and in his dream, he's walking down the street, and here comes this being walking toward him. And he immediately recognizes, oh, that's Bashar. Oh my God. But as he gets closer, he's so bright, this Bashar being coming towards Daryl, that Daryl fragments. He can't handle the light. So he pixelates and he falls apart. And he hears himself say in the dream, oh, that's why you don't present yourself to me visually. At some point, I'll be able to raise my vibration high enough to the point where I'll be able to see you more often. But for now, I'll take the audio. That's as good as I can get right now, but it's a preview of coming attractions. So everyone in our dreams is an aspect of ourselves. Those mentors are us, but maybe we're acclimating little by little, but it's a preview of coming attractions. It's the vibration that we're moving toward. So just take that breath in. So perhaps maybe the dream that you brought in tonight is about a being that you put on that higher pedestal, but no, right now it's an aspect of you. Okay, now we cross the threshold. And from a dreaming and sleeping perspective, this is when you actually conk out, you go to sleep. Now you enter the special world. Joseph Campbell differentiates between the ordinary world and the special world. The special world is where everything tips upside down. You have to cross through a threshold. It's not always easy. Many of us have a difficult time going to sleep. During the pandemic, there's been a lot of stress. So some of us, it's not so easy to go to sleep. We have to meditate. We've got to do some extra spiritual work. Some of us need to, take some sleep supplements that we've never had to take before. It's not so easy to cross that threshold. And on the hero's journey, it's not always so easy to say yes to the special world. We have to engage our will. And I asked you when I had you place your hands on your belly, you connected with your will. You connected with a time in your life that you engaged your will and you overcame something. So this is an example of a time that you did step into the special world and you did prevail. So you have that ability to say yes to that. So in a dream, the crossing the threshold might look like a bridge. As a symbol, it might look like a hallway. It might look like you're starting in one place and you somehow have to cross some kind of, you have to solve a riddle, you have to solve a puzzle, you're being tested. Maybe you're in school and there's a test that you didn't study for. All of these are threshold dreams. And we could even say, and I'm kind of jumping around here, but it's in mythology, sometimes there's a threshold guardian that poses a riddle and you can't cross into the special world unless you can solve the riddle. I like to think of dreams as a riddle. And in our ordinary world perspective, we look at a dream and we say, that just doesn't make any sense. These dreams are weird, they're random, they're nonsensical, whatever. But in order to access the special world, we could say that landscape of our greater intelligence, we have to decode that dream or at least resonate with what it means in order to access this other world. Are you following me so far? So from a quantum physics perspective, I heard this just the other day, that if we add up the sum total of what our senses tell us, our sight, sound, touch, taste, all of that, plus our mental awareness, if we added all of that together, it equates to 0.003% of the reality that's actually happening. So in other words, everything that we know, and this is a scholarly bunch, this is a bunch of people that have been around the block a few times, that know a few things. This is a group of wise beings, all of you here. And yet the sum total of what we know equals 0.003%. So we could say the realm of dreams, the realm of mystery, the realm of the special world equals the rest of that. What's on the other side of that, 99.00, whatever the math is on that, the rest of it is in the special world. The special world is where it's at. And when we acclimate ourselves, so this is why I think it's important when I say I'm on a mission to awaken the world to the power of dreams. What I mean by that is I envision a world where people were connected to their dreams, where they remembered dreams every day and they talked about them every day, because I believe it's one of the fastest ways to help us to access our higher intelligence, our deeper intuition, our deeper humanity, our compassion, our empathy. I don't think we would be able to be a people that could go to war if we were regularly in touch with our dreams. We wouldn't be able to hurt anyone else. We wouldn't feel the need to take something from someone else, because we would be in that sense of the hologram that you are me and I am you. Why would I want to hurt you? I would only want to help you. I would only want to support you. So this is why I think dreams are important, and our dreams put us in touch with that greater percentage of reality that is beyond our conscious mind's awareness. Okay, so now we're in the special world. And once we're in the special world, we connect with tests, allies, and enemies. So if we've been in a dream where we've been tested, and again, if we're back in school and has anybody here had a dream like that, where you're at school, you can't find your locker combination, there's a test nobody told you about? Vincent says, all the time, every night, at least 10 times per night. Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. Poor Vincent. We're going to hear more about that later. We're going to talk. So it's how we learn, it's how we grow, the obstacles that get thrown our way. In fact, when I asked you to touch your belly, your heart, your third eye, these memories that you have of these special moments that are treasures, I imagine, that live in your own personal hall of fame, they happened because you were tested so that you could learn how resourceful you truly are. How could you ever know how resourceful, how talented, how powerful, how gifted you are unless you're tested? So we need to be tested. We also need our allies. Our allies, like everyone here, I imagine this is a pack of allies. It's not a sign of weakness to need your friends, to need those people that see you and celebrate you and remind you of who you are. In dreams, sometimes we'll show up with the most random friends or random allies. A lot of us are dreaming about animals these days. I would say those are spirit allies. They're here to help us. They're not here to hurt us. They're here to show us how powerful we are. And then there's the enemies. There's the ones that test us. There's the naysayers. In our dreams sometimes, and in waking life, we have those that say, yeah, you're really not all that. Who the hell do you think you are? What are you doing? You don't make any sense. I don't approve. I don't like you. You post something on social media and they say, oh, or you get unfriended by your own godmother. Hello. You post some things that are a little controversial. Oh my God, it hurts. Ouch. But we need that. We get tested. We have our allies, and then we have those that hurt us. And we could say this is maybe a little controversial. I'm not sure, but I think of everything in dreams is about wordplay. So the wordplay in enemy is, it's like an enema. And enemas are good for you. They help you to flush out all the crap you don't need anymore. So by the time you've had to interface with an enemy, by the time you prevail on the other side, you're lighter, you're clearer, you're more you than you were before. So God bless the enemies and God bless the enemas. The enemies are allies in disguise. They're testing your mettle. Okay, take a breath. Or do you want me to quickly move on to the next step? Okay. Okay. When does it get fun? It's going to get fun, I promise. All right. So now comes the innermost cave, or the belly of the whale. So many people dream about the ocean, about water. Raise your hand if you've had any ocean dreams. I see Darwin has an ocean behind him. So I have a feeling that he's connected to the ocean. And when you have a water dream, whether you're swimming, and I see Ione, she has dreams about water too. Often we'll have one of two types of experiences in that water. We either love it, where it's exhilarating. I had a dolphin dream once where I was crying in ecstasy. I became one with the dolphins. I woke up with new eyes. Literally, I had to get a new pair of contact lenses because my eyes improved because I'd been swimming with these dolphins in the water. So that's a whole crazy story. I wrote all about it. It's in one of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. But we can either be exhilarated in the water or terrified. Has anybody been terrified? Like there's a tsunami, oh my God, or you're drowning, or how the heck, or there's a sea creature that's overwhelming. So I think all of these are dream symbols that relate to the belly of the whale, that relate to the ocean. Ocean in dreams, I believe, represent our inner mystery and our relationship to it. Sometimes we're in harmony with it. Sometimes we're not. Sometimes we don't trust it. I just saw that Carolyn Mace posted a really interesting post about self-esteem as the core issue on our spiritual path. And it's related to trusting ourselves intrinsically. And the ocean is such a wonderful metaphor of our true selves because it's vast, it's mysterious, it flows, it's emotional. It's not one note. It rises and falls like our heartbeat. It's connected to the phases of the moon. It's so much like us. So our relationship to the water in dreams tells us about our relationship with our spirit, our soul, even our feminine aspect. And we have that whether we're a man or a woman. It's the part of us that knows how to flow. So the belly of the whale, I used to resist that stage of the hero's journey. I used to not like it. I used to want to wish it away until I realized the quickest way to get through the belly of the whale is to settle in. So we've all heard about, so when we think about the belly of the whale, we think of being swallowed up by the whale because we've been refusing our quest. And then the whale swallows us up to tell us, nope, you can run, but you can't hide from your purpose here. You came here on a mission. You're going to do it. I'm going to swallow you up until you're ready to accept it. And once we accept the belly of the whale, so some of you might be there right now. This might be the stage that you're in right now. With COVID stretching out as long as it is, a lot of us have been in a kind of an extended belly of the whale phase. One thing I found that I love is the belly of the whale is where things get quiet. I've actually learned to love when the belly of the whale stage comes around in my life because it's a time for depth. It's a time when all the blinking lights and all of you can't go out, you can't party, nobody's around, the phone stopped ringing. Where'd everybody go? Where's the mentor? Oh my God. Where you have to stop and drop into your own inner wisdom. This is when you finally get quiet enough, and we resist that quiet until we surrender to it. And once we do, we find it quite blissful. And then we think, oh my God, why was I fighting this? This is okay. Hello, darkness, my old friend. This is okay. And the moment we make peace with that belly of the whale, that innermost cave, is the moment the whale spits us out. Ain't it ironic? The moment we surrender, the moment we embrace it, the moment we love it, it says, all right, I'm done with you. Go on, move on with you. Move on to the next stage. So a lot of sea creatures show up in dreams these days. In fact, there's a lot of people in the dream community that talk a lot about about whale dreams and about dolphin dreams. And it's very, very important. Okay, I want to just check in how our time is. We're good. We still have another half hour, right? I think so. I'm going to keep going. Okay. So once we emerge from the belly of the whale, just like I was talking about when I used to play softball and I'd get beaten by the batting cages, I'd go into the dugout. In a way, the belly of the whale stage is like that dugout. It's quiet. We can find ourselves again. And from that place, we store up our strength, and then we emerge more powerful and ready to go. And this is the stage where we connect with our supreme ordeal, or as I like to say, it's the supreme opportunity. So if you ever saw Star Wars, show of hands, if you ever saw Star Wars, this is the stage where Luke Skywalker has the face-off with Darth Vader. And he realizes it's his father. So often daddy issues show up, are related to the supreme ordeal / supreme opportunity. And I believe this is so because our fathers, regardless of what our relationship was like with them, often our fathers, whether we like it or not, they are like gods to us as children. And whether we think they are or not, they often set the bar for who we're supposed to be in this life. And there's some unspoken rule that we're not supposed to do better than them. We're not supposed to make them look bad. We're supposed to kind of hang out in a relative place where we honor them by being small. But that's our ego level. That's their ego level. From the spirit level, we're meant to stand on their shoulders and go beyond them. And that honors their spirit. But there's often a struggle internally, psychologically, with how dare we be more, be better, be bigger. But if we're struggling on the level of the ego, we'll stay in that maze and keep getting lost. But if we step into the spirit aspect, we realize it honors him, it honors our ancestors, it honors our mother, it honors everyone who stood before us. If we step on their shoulders and fly into the future and go beyond. So we can imagine, just take a moment right now and just imagine how whatever your relationship was with your father, the spirit of him and the spirit of your ancestors they're cheering for you. They want you to be liberated. They want you to explore beyond what they had the wherewithal to explore. It honors them for you to be different, for you to be unique, for you to express and go beyond. If anyone ever heard of Anita Marjani, I'm sure you have, she has a book called Dying to Be Me. In that book, it really talks about this stage because her father disowned her. She reneged on an arranged marriage and then had this life without her family. And she got terminal cancer. She was riddled with cancer and died. On the other side, she met her father who had died before her. And while on the other side, her father was on his knees, apologizing to her, saying, "Please forgive me, daughter. I couldn't have done better. My ego only knew what I knew based on our culture. I couldn't have done better than I did, but I am so proud of you for going beyond me, going beyond what our culture said you should do. I'm so sorry that we hurt you, but you have my blessing. You have my permission. Please go forth and multiply. Please, please, please." And basically she emerged from that experience very shortly thereafter with no cancer in her body, with the freedom that gave her, and able to have the permission to move on with her life and not feel that she was betraying him. So I think the supreme ordeal is the supreme opportunity that when we get through the other side, and often in our dreams is when we're dealing with our biggest, scariest nemesis. For me, it's been these wolves that have chased me in my dreams for so long. I finally just let them attack me. I stopped running from them. You've heard of the book, Women Who Run with the Wolves. I'm threatening to write a book called Women Who Run from the Wolves. I used to run from them. And then I finally said, okay, fine. have me, and they ripped me from limb to limb. And then I put myself back together again, but differently. And I became sort of a wolf woman in the dream. And every time I think about that dream, I feel so grounded, and I even feel a little fierce. And I feel like, come on, who wants a piece of me? Like there's this fierceness that comes through me when I think of that dream. So that was a supreme ordeal dream. It was terrifying. There was death involved, and yet I was reborn in that dream. Often we will wake up too quickly from a nightmare. We don't get a chance to finish it while it's happening. But I always like to say, and I invite you to repeat this 3 times if you would, a nightmare is an unfinished dream. If you would say that, okay, a nightmare is an unfinished dream. A nightmare is an unfinished dream. A nightmare is an unfinished dream. I'm going to pretend like I'm conducting an orchestra. Beautiful. Well done. So what that means is whether you're lucid in the dream and you're able to finish the dream from inside, or if you practice imagery rehearsal therapy, which is a fancy way of saying use your imagination, your childlike imagination in your waking state. And while you have the memory of your dream over here, imagine what you would do if you were back in that dream, how you would play it out. And the dream ain't over until you're empowered. What would you do? What would have to happen for you to be victorious in this dream? And I would dare say, what would it take for you to be exalted in this dream? Not just survive that dream, not just come through it, but how could that ordeal give you a superpower? I don't think we go through a difficult thing in our waking lives, which is also a dream, or in a dream without getting something that makes us better and stronger. It's like the Japanese wabi-sabi. When a beautiful piece of art gets broken, a plate gets broken, some beautiful piece of art, they put gold in the cracks and it becomes 1,000 times more valuable than it was in its original state. That's why people call me the nightmare whisperer, because I'm such a champion for nightmares because of what we can do when we work with them. The transformation is off the chart. So that's what's possible here in this ordeal stage. Now we get to the reward. Phew, finally, for God's sake, you've earned this reward. Okay, so these dreams are where there's clearly something that you get, and inside the dream, you're aware of the wisdom, the wealth, the new friendship, the love, the insight. There's something that is, that just empowers you. There was a woman in my latest Chicken Soup for the Soul book, Dreams and the Unexplainable, who was going through the darkest night of the soul on every level. Her mother died, and her mother happened to be her business partner. They ran an antique store together. Nobody was buying antiques. They were going out of business. And the store happened to be also her apartment upstairs. And she was going to lose her apartment. She was losing her business. She lost her mother. It was like, oh my God, could it get any worse? And yet she kept dreaming that she was winning the lottery over and over. And she thought, this is a cruel joke. Why would I have dreams like this where I'm not getting any specific insight? And yet this circumstances in my waking life, like how do these two things go together? So she was coached to ask her dream, to incubate a dream. And this is something you can all do. I would suggest that you do it tonight, that you ask your dreams to give you deeper insight about what you can do in your waking life. Whatever your challenge is, give me something concrete. Give me something I can do that will make X better. Whatever X is in your life, dreams, give me something, show me something, reveal something. And if it happens to be lottery numbers, make them clear. Put it on a billboard, make it clear. I will listen. I'll do my part. I will listen. You do yours. And I believe if we take one step toward the dream maker, it takes 10 steps toward us. But sometimes I talk to my dreams as if I'm kind of be scolding them, but it helps to clarify the thought. So anyway, she has a dream where she actually gets some numbers, and she actually sees what street it's on. And there's a particular little liquor store on this street. So she goes to that particular liquor store and she puts those numbers in and she wins the lottery. And it's this lottery called Lucky for Life. So she gets something like $50,000 every year for every year she's alive for the rest of her life. It's a real story. She's got the ticket. There's proof. Anyway, it shows that if you get, sometimes you just need to ask a little more clarity, please. If it's a recurring dream, I'm sure all of you have had recurring dreams. I think sometimes just focusing on recurring dreams is so important because I think the recurring dreams are really trying to reveal something that we just haven't quite grokked. So we can set that dream declaration, that strong intent before we go to sleep to say, whatever this is, get me to the bottom of it. Take me behind the scenes. I am listening. I will be obedient. I will take notes like a dutiful secretary when I wake up in the morning, even if it seems strange. I am listening. Show me. And often those dreams will change or they will reveal something very important. Okay. So now we've got the reward. I want to pause here for a moment because I think this is such an important stage. The hero's journey is challenging, right? It's not just roses and unicorns and cakes and flowers. It's challenging. And I think a lot of us have gotten really good at being in warrior mode, at being able to fight the good fight and show up during difficult times. But what most of us aren't so great at is reveling in the reward stage. The last time you got a compliment, what did you do? Thanks. I'm fine. Whatever. This whole thing, like we just kind of deflect it. It's almost like we're afraid it's going to weaken us or it's going to make us needy. But no, what if we received the reward deeply and we knew that by receiving that, it would make us stronger. And ultimately, it would be like a flower receiving sunlight. It would have us blossom more fully so we could give more. So next time we're at the reward stage, next time you have a reward dream, don't just shove it off. Don't say, it was just a dream. No, it wasn't just a dream. It was a reality on a parallel plane that is still accessible. And in fact, a reward dream, if you hear nothing else from this whole talk, I hope you hear this. Any one of those dreams that you've had, you could say your best dream that you've ever had. So actually, if you can, even if you can't think of the particular details, call to mind even a wisp of one of the best dreams you've ever had. Just take a moment to do that. And just contemplate that feeling that you had in that dream. Pick one. Don't get too scattered with them, but just have that one. It's a parallel plane reality that we can dip into every day for the rest of our lives. So some of you have heard of someone named Albert Einstein. Yes, a few of you, maybe. So Albert Einstein had a dream when he was a teenager, and I know Larry Burke knows this dream for sure. He was sledding through the Alps with his friends, and he broke through the sound barrier. He went past where his friends were, and he found himself in this exhilarated state in his dream. And he woke up from that dream just, wow, so excited, so exuberant. And according to the stories, that state of consciousness that he tapped into as a teenager in that dream, he referred to throughout the rest of his life and credited the theory of relativity to that place in consciousness that he tapped into as a teenager that he was still able to tap into as an adult. So anytime he was at a crossroads, didn't know how to solve whatever he was working on, he would contemplate that dream and it would elevate him into that state of consciousness. So it stayed with him throughout his life. I think we all get at least one of those, if not many of them in a lifetime. I know Larry Burke has done a lot of research with cancer patients, and this is so fascinating to me, with dreams that saved their lives. They were able to contemplate, ooh, and I'm covered in chills when I think about this, where they contemplate one potent symbol, and that either drives them to take action that saves their life, or it's simply in the contemplating of what happened in that dream that changes their chemistry. So just in the same way, so here's a way to be able to just get really simple about it. We all know how stress affects our bodies. Stress creates cortisol that creates this cascade of negativity in our body and negative repercussions. And just a stressful thought can do that. Just like a stressful thought can do that, an exalted thought can do the same thing. So when you just now thought about that favorite dream of yours, that swimming with dolphins or hanging out with Jesus, or that great kiss, or that whatever that reunion was, that is also creating a cascade of chemicals through you right now. It's healing something. It's an elixir. And it's not just for you. It's meant to be shared. So let's move on with the hero's journey, shall we? Now we start moving toward the ordinary world. And Joseph Campbell has a great quote. I don't have it memorized, but this is the nutshell of it. He says, when it comes to the return stage of the hero's journey, just like there was resistance to setting forth on the hero's journey, just as we resisted it way back when in stage 3, we're like, I can't do that. I'm not up for that. We resist just as much going back into the ordinary world because we've gone through something at this point in our lives. We've all gone through something, and now we have this elixir to share. But Joseph Campbell says something about how most of us don't want to go back to the ordinary world. We don't want to share our dreams with people that don't have the ears to hear it. He says something about commit them all to the devil and just move on, keep it for yourself, because they're not going to get it. Have you ever had an epiphany, like a spiritual moment, Vincent, Jenna, that was so transcendent and so beautiful? Larry Burke, Eileen, Jenna, that was so transcendent. And you're like, oh my God, if I try to tell anybody about this, they're going to think I have lost my mind. No, they're going to throw me away. They're going to put me in the loony bin. So there's resistance to sharing ourselves, our dreams, our insights, because we're different. We're not who we were before we had that. So we have to figure out the journey back is about integration. So this is my particular point of view. I believe the journey back, once we've received the reward, the elixir, in other words, we're meant to imbibe it ourselves. We're meant to be enriched by it ourselves, so that by the time we come home with the elixir, we're not coming home as proselytizers that are standing on a pulpit trying to get the sinners to convert. We just beam like a lighthouse, like that saying, a lighthouse doesn't run around the island looking for ships to save. It just stands still and glows. I get the chills as I say that. I didn't make that quote up. I borrowed it from someone. I don't know who said that, but somebody else said that. I just butchered it in my own fancy way. A lighthouse doesn't run around the island trying to save all the random ships. It stands still and beams. So perhaps that's how we do this next leg of the journey. And I think it's a little easier. That way we can behold the magic of that elixir. We can behold the juice. We can behold it all. And if people want some of it, they can ask for it. They can invite us. They can say, wow, what did you have for breakfast? Oh my God, I'll have what she's having. I'll have what he's having. I once, years ago, I was in practitioner training at Agape. I'm a practitioner of religious science. And there was a woman in my class. And this was a time when I was coming out of one of my very dark nights of the soul. And my self-esteem was just flatlined. I barely wanted to be on the planet. I had come out of not wanting to be on the planet at all. And I was slowly crawling my way towards the light. And I was in practitioner training, and there was a woman who was in my class who I'd never met before, but she was a lighthouse. She just beamed, she glowed. And I couldn't help but stare at her. And I just heard myself saying, I want what she has. And I did something I'd never done before. I'm not the type to do this. Yes, I'm outgoing right now, but the version of me that I was back then would have never done this. But I asked her to lunch and I said, I'm not trying to pick you up. I just want to know what you're doing. There's something about you. And so we had lunch and she gave me a list of books to read and seminars to attend. And basically it was like, there was one seminar that she suggested that I attend that ended up kind of setting me on a path. It was she told me to do the Landmark Forum and I did a whole bunch of that work, but she didn't proselytize. She didn't do a bunch of thou shouts. She didn't throw down lightning bolts at me. She inspired me to be the next stage of my own development. I saw something in her that I couldn't quite own myself, but I was drawn to. So this is what it's like to come home with the elixir. So I missed a step in between. So let me say something to bridge the gap between we've got the elixir, we've got this wonderful dream. And when we come home with it, there's this stage called the resurrection. And there's a fancy word that goes with this. It's called the apotheosis. This is where the mere mortal becomes divine. And I believe if we take one of these really powerful dreams, like the ones that Larry Burke has aggregated in his studies, and the ones that I'm sure you have had that have been empowering to you, if you embody that so much, you become the 2.0 version of yourself. You become spirit embodied in your human form. And I believe that's why you came here. You came here to be your own version of the apotheosis. You came here to be the butterfly version of you. You didn't come here to just simply crawl on the earth and struggle in the maze and bump your head against the wall and curse the wall and curse everyone else. You came here to struggle, and eventually discover your wings and to realize that you are more than the sum total of your circumstances. You are more than this. You are more than what's going on in the world. And in fact, maybe one of the ways that you can help what's going on in the world is for you to spread your wings and for you to come into the truth that's been here all along, the truth that all your dreams have been conspiring for you to wake up to. I believe that's the ultimate message. And then we come home with the elixir and we beam and we share. And we might share with those who ask questions. We might share with those who tap us on the shoulder, and who knows, we might write a book about what we dreamed about. We might do something that puts the elixir into a form. Vincent Jenna's written some books, Larry Burke, and I'm sure there's some others here who have written some books, but that's one way to be able to put the elixir somewhere that it can be shared. The hero's journey isn't complete if you just keep it to yourself. You got to share. And guess what? At that step, the end of one hero's journey is the beginning of the next, and it goes on and on and on. So if we're looking at just the hero's journey, the whole cycle, as if it was all one night, the last stage of the hero's journey, that coming home with the elixir, is when you wake up with a dream, you've written it down, you've embodied the wisdom, and perhaps you share it with somebody in the ordinary world. And in that way, it doesn't just stay with you, it spreads and it shares. So the top of one mountain is the beginning of the next. And that's a yay, but you might want to take a breath in between. You might want to just take stock of all that you've learned and all that you've grown. So let me just do a little recap of these 12 stages. And I'm curious, I know it's probably time for a little break. How are we doing?
We have a few minutes. It's 8:20, so we have about 10 minutes.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to review these 12 stages. And as I'm doing this, I'm going to ask you to once again see if you can identify where that dream is that you have. So there's actually two things I want you to look for. Your dream, what stage of the hero's journey is it expressing? So that's question number one. You might already know the answer to that because I asked you that earlier. The second question is, where are you on your hero's journey right now? Which stage most resonates with you in your personal life. And there may be some, like in your relationship, you might be coming home with the elixir, and maybe with a new creative venture, that might be stage 1. But in general, there's probably one stage that mostly resonates. So see if you can identify what that is. All right, so stage 1, the ordinary world. This is where things are just kind of ho-hum. And that's usually the rumbling. It's like the calm before the storm. It's like, oh, things are too calm. Things are too ordinary. And then there's the call to adventure. That's when you get invited to something beyond yourself. And that invitation might come in the form of a kick in the butt to get out of where you are. You can't stay here. You got to move. You got to grow. So it might be, it's like Reverend Michael Beckwith says, pain pushes until inspiration pulls. So the call to adventure is going to be either pain is pushing or inspiration is pulling. Ideally, if we get to the 2.0 version of ourselves, it's just going to be inspiration that keeps pulling. Stage 3 is the refusal of the call, or the resistance. And we can embrace the resistance. It gets to go on the ride with us the whole way. It just doesn't get to drive the car. And then we meet the mentor. Stage 4 is the mentor. And this is somebody who is an elder brother or sister that inspires us, that shows us the way. And we might have a whole slew of them. We might have a whole, the round table, the Knights of the Round Table, that are our inspired guides. And in the dream, you might have a whole bunch of them, or there might be one. It might be an animal. It might be somebody it might be grandma. It might be somebody, who knows, but there's always at least one. And then we cross the threshold at stage 5. Stage 6 is the tests, the allies, and the enemies. Stage 7 is the belly of the whale, or the innermost cave. And like I said at the beginning, one of my favorite Joseph Campbell quotes is, the cave we fear to enter holds the treasures we seek. And then stage 8 is the supreme ordeal, the supreme opportunity, where we face our biggest fear and then we overcome it. We call on our supernatural strength. We call on our allies. We call on our mentor, and we overcome it. And then we get the reward. And the reward is often wisdom, at the very least. Sometimes it's actually some kind of material assistance. Sometimes it's a friendship. Sometimes it's simply an aha, whatever that is. It's ours. We've earned it. And then as we embody it, we start to move back. We start the journey back. We start the return. And then we have the resurrection. The resurrection is where we're no longer who we were when we started the journey. This is where we actually come into the hero that we are, the dream version of ourselves, the dream hero. We become the elixir, and then we come home with the elixir. We share it. That's the final stage. The final frontier is how we share it, who we give it to, and how. And I think, and maybe it's because I'm lazy and I don't want to work that hard, but I think it's also the best way. Honestly, I threatened to write a book called The Lazy Girl's Rules for Life. By just embodying the wisdom, we don't have to work so hard. We put it in our minds. We gobble it up. We become that. We share that. And then when asked, we share. We overflow. We don't have to get anybody to change. We simply be the change we wish to see. We be the example. We be the lighthouse. So I'm curious now, let's just take a breath and let's just wrap this up in a bow. Let me just invite you to turn within one more time. And with this breath, let's just acknowledge all that we've just heard, and any particular aspects of it that we heard. If you identified where you're at on your particular hero's journey right now, what stage resonates most with you personally, and the dream that you brought with you, the dream that you acknowledged, where would that fit in the hero's journey in any of these 12 stages? Which one is that? Is it the reward? Is it the call? Is it the quest? Is it the return? So as you're breathing right now, know that, as I mentioned earlier, the hero's journey is a hologram. And it's not outside of you. It's who you are. It's part of your DNA. It's one of the reasons why this story is so sacred in so many different traditions. It's at the heart of all true heroic tales, these 12 stages. It's because it's seems to be part of our DNA, the way that we as humans are wired. So recognize that you are a hero on a hero's journey. You are a dreamer. You have the ability to overcome the difficulties that come your way and be made stronger for them. And you, no doubt, have come through many of those things. You know how to do this. But I want to encourage you in this moment to spend an extra breath inside the reward stage, where you can just celebrate yourself for how far you've come, for all the generosity that you've given, all that you've made of your life. Often we look ahead and we see all the things that we haven't yet done, but we seldom stop to truly take a breath and acknowledge the view from where we've climbed, where we are right now. So just call to mind all the moments of heroism in your life, the moments of stretching yourself beyond your comfort zone, becoming someone you didn't quite know you could be, but you are, and you have, and you've done it. And with all of that, bring all of that with you to what you are moving into in your life right now. And perhaps now that you have all of these tools, maybe now that you've taken time out of the batting cages and you sat in the dugout with me for a while, or you've climbed up to the wall with me and we're looking over the maze and we now can see how easy it is from up here. It's all so simple. It's just a little fun game. Maybe now when you climb back down and get back into the maze or go back out to the batting cages, you're going to be ready to knock it out of the park. Put me in, coach. I want to play. Whatever it is that you're working on in your life now, bring this heroism with you. Bring this, your dreaming mind with you to help give you an advantage, so that this next stage on your journey can be so graceful. Instead of dying daily, you can be reborn daily. You can grow new wings daily. And as you are lifted, I know that the ripple effect of each one of you goes way beyond you, way beyond your family, way beyond your community. It goes beyond and it does touch the world. You are that lighthouse that does shine in this world so bright, and perhaps your amplitude is just grown right now. So that as you're awake, an awakened dreamer, you can inspire others to do the same. As we are lifted, all are lifted. And for this, I say thank you so much. You beautiful heroes, you. And so it is. Amen. All woman, all dreams.